Do we even need Congress anymore? I'm going to argue that we don't. This is Live and Lead Life. We're going to jump right into it. The people elect the congressmen and women to essentially vote on their behalf. Back in the day when this democracy was established, it was meant for the people to run the country. The country has to establish policies, has to establish laws, has to establish these certain criteria within the government to effectively serve the people, right? But back in the day, there was no way that the U.S. citizens could all come to maybe Washington or all congregate together to cast their vote or for their voices to be heard. It was impossible. We were stretched across this mass land. Today, technology kind of supersedes that. Technology kind of takes that challenge away. We vote for the congressmen and women to represent us in the legal aspect of making laws, establishing taxes, tax reforms, and all these things, right? We vote for a single person to hopefully represent our voice. But why do we even need to do that anymore? If we could just set up a poll online and every single citizen or every single U.S. person could vote right then and there. Look at Donald Trump. He has a Twitter. Everybody on the planet has a Twitter. I actually do not have a Twitter. But he just posts something on Twitter and the entire population sees what he's posting. Could he post a poll like, hey, should we release the Epstein files? Then every American could vote on that aspect. The outcome of this vote could start making decisions for the government. This would be a true representation of the people. Our voice would then be heard. We would no longer have to rely on a congressperson that we voted in who wants to try to secure their tenure in Congress because they're getting paid so much, and they're essentially trying to establish this popularity so that they can stay in office, keep getting a paycheck. I feel like a lot of Congress people are voting more in their personal interest and less in the interest of the people that they were essentially hired to represent. I'm going to show a short clip here. It's an old clip, but it's of AOC speaking, and it kind of shows how I feel about what's happening in Congress today.
Well, I think first and foremost, the overwhelming majority of Democrats, over 200 Democrats, voted against this DHS and ICE funding bill today. And
I want to state first how it started off like I feel, but that's not what we voted you into office for. We voted you to represent what we feel. You see, there's a big difference there. And then she immediately starts turning like, well, I want to let it be known that the overwhelming amount of Democrats voted this way. But is that what the people wanted? Why we're not talking about the individual people in Congress and what they want. They do not run this nation. We, the people, are supposed to run this nation. You do not rule or control us. You are a representation of us, and you need to go back to that and remember that fact.
And I think it is extremely important that everyone across the country recognize that. There are hundreds of members.
That's a good point. She's saying she wants everyone across the nation to recognize how these Democrats voted. That's not how it should be working, ma'am. It should be working that the nation, you should be recognizing what the nation wants, not trying to change our opinion. You only should vote on what we want, not try to sway us like, well, we all want this stuff. You guys should get on board. That is not how this democracy was designed.
Members of Congress, some are going to vote differently, but at the end of the day, Democrats stood in almost unanimity against this DHS bill, and that's how it should have been.
But you obviously believe ICE should be abolished, but there are many in your party who are not going that far. Is that a problem for you?
This question as a whole, I think, is wrong. You honestly feel like ICE should be abolished. But what do the people... Nobody cares. No, I guess a little bit of offense meant... but nobody cares about this person. I do not care about her thoughts or opinions. I care about me, my country, the nation, my neighbors. And that's what the democracy is supposed to be about. We, the people, rule this land, not AOC, Democratic representative of the district in New York. It has nothing to do with me living in Florida and what my taxpayer dollars and everything else. She's supposed to just represent her small portion of the people and not try to influence or sway the entire nation to jump on board with her ideology or beliefs.
I think
I think.
any step in the direction of reining in and cutting the funding of an agency that is attacking U.S. citizens,
Not
that
true.
are kidnapping 5-year-olds,
Not true.
that are using them as bait to open doors, and that are privately circulating that they can violate everyday Americans' constitutional rights by busting into their doors, they deserve to be defunded. I'll take any step in that direction.
Are you frustrated then that leader?
I think they deserve, and she'll take any step in that direction. This is like an activist speech almost. This is like somebody who's protesting against whatever, right? Like in school, like, well, I think this person should win homecoming queen, so I'm gonna do whatever it takes for that person to win. That's forcing your opinion or beliefs. You're trying to convince other people, right? I think we could all agree that type of statement or rhetoric is her and the Democratic Party trying to convince us to think their way. Like, hey, you're wrong. You should think this way, and that's how we're going to vote. We're going to try to prove it to you through the vote. That is not the purpose of Congress. That is not what they should be doing. They should be hearing our voice. And whether or not they agree or disagree, they were voted to sit in that seat and represent me, the people. Not to bring their personal bias into the lawmaking process.
Effectively cut a deal to fund them and implement very limited reforms.
I mean, I look at the votes that are there today, and I think what is most important is that Leader Jeffries stood against this bill, and Democrats voted against it.
Should they block this in the Senate?
If I were a member of the United States Senate, I would not vote for funding this ICE.
So there was a lot of ayes. I would not vote. I think it's important. I respect the speaker for blocking this. I believe that it should be known that the Democrats all voted in one way, but it is not about you. You mean nothing. You mean absolutely nothing. You want to vote from the people to represent the people. So how about we start hearing, like, what do the people want? My district, right? If she just changed the word, like, well, my district believes that this bill should not be passed to fund ICE. Has she spoken to the people in her district, or has she spoken to the people that voted for her? Or is she trying to convince them? Is she trying to build her brand like, hey, I'm the hero, I'm doing what's right, with all this personal bias and whatnot? I just simply Googled, look at this. I just Googled, what does Congress do? Congress legislative branch of the U.S. government responsible for making laws, overseeing the executive branch, managing the federal budget, and representing the American people. That's it. So they should be making laws, overseeing the executive branch, managing federal budget, representing the American people. That's the key point here. Who is she representing with all this I? And it's not just her. A lot of politicians on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, they're saying a lot of like, well, I would do this, or I don't believe in this, or I think that's wrong. But it doesn't. Nobody cares. You're nothing. You're nobody. You're just another person. Honestly, getting paid too much to sit there and be the voice of me whenever I could just be my own voice. If we just put out some type of poll nowadays with technology, then I could be my own voice. I don't even need you. You don't even need to be there. The people could vote. The people could decide the outcome of these laws and the federal budget. So going down, this is just literal Google. This is just the basic of what they should be doing, right? Representation and constituent services. Members of Congress represent the interest of their constituents, balancing state and district priorities with national concerns. They communicate with citizens, respond to concerns, and provide services such as helping with federal agencies or navigating government programs. Each member may emphasize different duties depending on tenure, committee assignment, and policy focus. Here's a key word I want you to take out here. Service. And provide services. They're in the service industry. They're supposed to work for us. Instead, they're trying to convince us of their ideology, or convince us that they are right and wrong and they voted in our best interest. But that's not, we don't need them to convince us to do anything, right? What we need is for them to remove their personal bias, the personal feelings, and just start representing us. Or what I would recommend is that everybody's like, we need to abolish the police, we need to abolish ICE, but the people that are saying this are in the federal government. A lot of people do not feel that way across America. Put it to a vote. I would recommend we abolish Congress. I think there's a pretty simple way that we can do it. Whenever the founding fathers of this democracy wrote it into the Constitution, it starts with we the people. The idea is that the people will again rule this land. But as I stated, those people back in the day, it was unrealistic to expect every single U.S. citizen to then congregate in a single location so that they can raise their hand either yay or nay on whatever vote. Like, should we release the Epstein files? We'll put it to a vote now. Raise your hand. And then they would count everybody, right? That was just impossible. So what they did instead is they elected a single person or multiple people, depending on the population and what districts you're covering and everything else. But that single person was supposed to engage with the population, hear the population's concerns, hear their thoughts, what the majority of the population felt and believed, and they would vote accordingly to that. That's what they were elected to do. Today, that's just not happening. They have their own agenda. The Democrats want party, so the Democrats are linking together and they're gaining allies. It's like a reality TV show. They're starting to gain allies within the Democratic Party so that all the Democrats vote this certain way. But how is that possible? How can all the Democrats vote against or for a bill if they're representing their people? One Democratic state might feel that immigration is bad. One Democratic state might feel that immigration is good. It's not a unified process. Everybody doesn't have the same feelings or beliefs or thoughts but the Democrats, they would lead you to believe that like all Democrats are good, but that's not true. You see Democrats vote against other Democrats all the time. I hope that's because the people inside their district would vote against them. I hope it's not just them showing retaliation or potentially showing an ally for the Republican Party. I hope they're truly representing the people. I believe most of them are not. This is what needs to change. If President Trump can send out a Twitter post and the whole world can see this post, then why can't we just set up some sort of process or website, a polling website? I could set up a poll right now on YouTube asking you a question, and depending on how many people click on it, I'm not that well known obviously, but you would all have an opinion. So if I said like, hey, should I wear my dinosaur shirt again tomorrow in the video, I could put up a poll, and then the overwhelming majority, whether they say yes or no, I could just do that because that's what the people want, the majority of the people. Everybody's not going to agree. There's never going to be 100%. But the people would then have a voice. Now they're controlling this channel. Why can't we do that for the government? It's how it was designed before technology existed. I think we could have open dialogue and open communication so that we can get back to that idea that the people can represent themselves, so we can stop the propaganda. We can stop the emotional bias. We can stop the Democrats or the Republicans or the politicians building their personal brand so that they can profit off the American people and not actually serve and represent us appropriately. Leave a comment below with what you think the solution is and how do we stop this bias from affecting our country as a whole. These decisions that they make affect everyone in this world, essentially, in the United States. That, to me, just seemed a little bit outlandish. That our voices potentially aren't being heard. A small portion of the population might influence this single individual. That single individual's vote then significantly impacts the entire nation. To me, that's not right. Let's remove emotions from politics. Let's fully represent the people. Obviously, vote Lee 2028. Peace.